Hello friends, welcome. In this video, I have given explanation and summary of white dots in dark lanes. I have discussed about the significant aspects of the story. Let us start. Himanshi Shelat is the writer of White Dots in Dark Lanes. She is a Gujarati short story writer. And here you will see that in most of the stories written by Himanshi Shelat, miserable plight of women is highlighted, and that also in patriarchal society like India. Her famous works are Antral, Iloko, Chandlano Vyap, and White Dots in Dark Lanes. In this story also you will see that sorrow, loneliness, helplessness, and melancholic life of especially widows in male dominant society constitute the theme of this story. The title is very significant because here you can see white dots. They are symbolic and they convey a lot about the story. They contribute to the theme of the story because here white dots means the white clothes worn by the widows, and dark lanes they symbolize the narrow and rigid traditional social customs that push widows in the dark ditch of distressful and melancholic life. Here the dark lanes also stand for the conventional customs which are meaningless and they are illogical. Because of these evil customs, widows are compelled to live in the dark rooms of widow houses, and they have to live a very miserable kind of life because they cannot eat the tasty food, their heads are shaved, they are not allowed to use the mirror, and they just spend their life in bhajan kirtans, that is singing religious hymns. Now let us see the main characters of the story, White Dots in Dark Lanes. The narrator of the story herself. Then we have her friends Parvati and Sulakshna, both of them are widows. The narrator was on a tour with her friends, and on her way she wanted to meet her friends Parvati and Sulakshna, who were living in a widow house in Bhagirathi Kalyan Dham. Now reaching there, she heard the sounds of tabla and cymbals, and she thought that they might be preparing for bhajan kirtan. And before she enters into the widow house, she was instructed to leave the purse outside. Then when she entered into the widow house, the very first thing that she noticed was in a huge room, white dots of various sizes were arranged on a floor mat. Here, see, the word white dots has been used for the women, the widows who were wearing white clothes. And here, the word dots itself, it shows that women were considered to be lifeless objects. In the story, we see the miserable plight of women in patriarchal society, where widowhood is considered to be a stage of life when women have to live a life which is devoid of happiness. They have to denounce all the worldly pleasures, like they can't wear colorful clothes, they just have to wear white sari. They are not allowed to eat tasty food. They cannot get ready or they cannot participate in the celebrations. And widows strictly have to follow the rules of the widow houses, and this is very clearly depicted in the story White Dots in Dark Lanes by Himanshi Sailath, and she was also pained to see such miserable plight of women in our society. We can see here how widows had to live a life as if they were in a prison. They even were not allowed to comb their hair because their heads were shaved. Now, when the narrator reaches there to meet her friends Parvati and Sulakshna, she wanted to comb her hair and she also wanted to use talcum powder so that she can feel fresh. But she couldn't see any mirror and she just had to press her hair and pinned it up. Then she came to know from Parvati and Sulakshna that very soon a big building would be constructed. Why? The reason was, as they told, there was one more character called Maya, and she had told them that there were about 2000 widows who were to be accommodated, and for them a huge building would be constructed. Now here we can see the attitude of people towards widows and how they were discarded by their families, and that's why they had to live in the widow houses. This shows apathetic attitude of people, how apathetic they can be. Instead of showing empathy towards the widows, they filled their lives with unending sufferings and miseries. Through Parvati and Sulakshna, the narrator has tried to show that because of the illogical and irrational customs and thoughts of a society, widows are tied in the manacles of grief and anguish, and they are compelled to spend their entire lives in the dark dungeons of the widow houses. Moreover, the narrator has also tried to create awareness regarding the evil customs which prove to be a curse for widows as they are confined in the four walls where they even cannot breathe freely. Now, in this story, you will see the character of Maya who was sent into the widow house just at the age of 16 because her husband was stabbed by somebody, and since then she had been living in the widow house. Now she was in her old age. This again shows how cruel the society can be. Now we should understand that life and death are not in the control of humans, so we cannot punish women just because their husbands die. Such a grave question is raised through this story, and it requires our attention so that unnecessarily women are not treated in inhuman way. We shouldn't deprive them from living their lives independently. Here you will also find one more minor character named Basanti. She was a young girl, and the narrator saw her playing harmonium, and just then somebody called her into the kitchen. So this shows that how her age, when she would be playing and she would be enjoying her life, she was sent to the widow house. How she might be married at a very young age, and unnecessarily without any cause she had to spend her whole life like a puppet in the widow house, just following the rules which were meaningless. Then here the narrator, she saw 50 women frozen on a mat. They seemed like plaster of Paris figures gathering dust. Here we can see that she has used the term plaster of Paris, which shows that women were treated like lifeless objects. They were not free to live life on their own terms. Why? Because of the irrational traditions and conventions, they were discarded by the families, and here they had to lead a very sorrowful life. So, in this way, we can see that the theme of anguish, grief, loneliness, and melancholy in the lives of widows is clearly revealed in the story through two major characters, Parvati and Sulakshana. I hope you have understood the story. If you like the video, please like and subscribe my channel. Thank you so much for watching the video.